welcome to the Dragon Difference podcast, LOCS Superintendent Heidi Mercer's podcast, where she talks to different members of the community and the school district about things that impact the school district. Today, our guest is, my name is Mark Snyder. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing for Lake Orion Community Schools, and today our guest is Kim McLean, the Early Childhood Center Director. Hey, Kim, thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Kim, do you want to just kind of give us a little bit about how you got to this point of being the director of the Early Childhood Center in your educational career?
Yeah, sure. Well, I have been in the field of early childhood for, it's probably been over 32 years now. I've been with Lake Orion and going on my 20th year with Lake Orion, and started as the early childhood director in Macomb County in Centerline Public Schools, and then I was over there about 15 years, and then came over to Lake Orion, and now I'm a Dragon and have been a Dragon now for 20 years.
So being a classroom teacher and kind of beginning that way, how much did that kind of inform, the process and how you got to the point of leading a department instead of just being a member of one?
Yeah, so I was a preschool teacher for about 2 years before I was a preschool teacher and an assistant director. So they moved me into the dual role of that in Centerline, which I did for about 8 years out there. And then was able to then move into becoming, I was the director as well during that 8-year period. And then was able to hire on some additional staff. The program was growing, and then I became the director solely. But being in the classroom is, I think, essential to learning what happens on a daily basis for teachers and working with families pretty intimately. So starting a career that way and then going into administration, I still kind of bring that along with me. I like to still be in the classroom and be with the children, even though there's a lot of managerial things that take you out. So I think one of the things that really kind of created for me was a way to find the right staff, because I know what's needed in the classroom. So when I hire in teachers, I know what they need to do. I know what they need to, how they need to perform, and they have to have a love for being with young kids.
Heidi and I always ask, and one of the things that she's most interested in too is how people have their educational journeys. But how did you choose this cohort of kids to choose the littlest kids versus, having older kids?
Yeah, well, you might be surprised, but I started my college career in business and advertising. So I actually have a degree in advertising and marketing.
Even further away from the little kids.
Yeah, it really was. And I was in a business school, and I just, when I was younger, I just always liked to be around little kids and be around children, a lot of babysitting, a lot of working, neighborhood kids and things like that. And I was realizing, like, I'm really not a good fit for this, like, somewhat business world. And so I started to look into back where I thought my beginning would be in education. And then I was able to spend some time in my educational career at college in older classrooms with elementary age children, some even middle school, and then in the early childhood field. And it sings to you. It takes a special person to work with young children, and that just kind of brought me, kept me in that field and with the younger kids.
Heidi, what are your goals as a superintendent and previously assistant superintendent teaching learning when you're looking at the early childhood program and having someone like Kim to lead it?
I think it's really important, and Kim, kind of spoke to this, that we have to have someone that has a passion for the littlest people in our district. And so that is one of the things that Kim absolutely, brings. And then the other piece that I think is really important is making sure that, our youngest learners are part of our district. Mm-hmm. And there's a connection there, because students that are in your center, right, are coming to our kindergarten. And so we're all one big family, one big district. And I really think that is something that you and I have both been able to work on over time, is ensuring that really we're not a district that is starting at kindergarten. No, we're starting, as early as the early childhood center, and really making sure that we're including all of our learners, including the youngest ones as well.
Can one of you explain the cohesion between the curriculum as it goes from early childhood to kindergarten? What's the connection there?
Yeah. So our curriculum is called High Scope curriculum, and it is a curriculum that is a research-based curriculum used, honestly, from birth through second grade. So it aligns with the state standards for pre-kindergarten and all the way up through kindergarten curriculum. So the way we look at things is we meet with the curriculum director, kindergarten teachers, developmental kindergarten teachers as well, the teaching and learning director or superintendent, and we find ways to create that bridge. So even though we're teaching the standards, we're having these conversations and activities that are transitioning our pre-K kids to kindergarten.
So, like, what's a 4-year-old to a 5-year-old, right? Which is the ages. What's kind of like, what are the traits or some of the tasks that both do? Or
Yeah. So an example might be pre-read or a pre-writing skill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in pre-K, you want to strengthen those muscles and those fine motor muscles. So instead of just putting a pencil or some kind of writing utensil in a pre-K child's hand, you're first going to develop those muscles. So you might have them start with manipulating clay or some sort of Play-Doh or something like that, because you really need to strengthen those muscles before you can have a writing utensil to write a legible letter. Some other ways is using sand in a tray or something where they're drawing out and using their fine motor skills to draw out letters of the alphabet and whatnot. And so that progression, and we call it scaffolding, from one to the next. Okay, now that child might be ready to actually use a writing utensil, but maybe I'm not handing them a full-size pencil. I might be cutting that pencil down to maybe the size of a golf pencil or something. And that is another way for them to actually learn that particular grip of holding that pencil. So that's just an example of kind of that progression. So then ultimately they're able to move on maybe by the end of pre-K to writing letters, upper, lowercase letters, their name, their friends' names, and different things like that that are actually legible.
Heidi, this is something that developed in your 16 years of as assistant superintendent teaching and learning. I mean, I assume that at the beginning, the early childhood was not as this developed academically.
I would say there wasn't a direct connection like there is now. We have worked purposefully to build connection between our kindergarten teachers and our early childhood center. So throughout the year, there are different activities, different collaboration times that the teachers come together. And so it's really been a goal of both Kim and mine to make sure that there is that alignment, that our kindergarten teachers understand what is happening in the early childhood center, and our early childhood center teachers understand what is happening in kindergarten.
So setting up the curriculum is one thing, the teaching and the connection between them all. But then there was this big leap, right, in around 2020 when the LHS bond passed in 2017, 2018 to go into building. What was the conversation between you guys about how you wanted that to look, and what was the necessity of having a building like that?
Well, I'll let Kim take that one because every year I heard from Kim regarding her dream of having an early childhood center. So this was really a true dream and vision of Kim for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. No, it was very exciting for me because I was offered the opportunity to be part of the design team and also work with the architects from GMB we went and visited different centers throughout the state, and we were able to glean not just like the best parts of every center that we liked and we thought would be a good fit, because it has to be a good fit for our community,
Okay.
what we're seeing, but also talk with those center directors and teachers that were living in their new centers and asking, what do you really love that you decided to put here, and what would you maybe have changed? So we were already ahead of the game when we were ready to start our design plan with GMB. So I just felt super fortunate. And a lot of what you'll see in our center here in Lake Orion is many of the items as a culmination of all of the different places we visited that actually came together in one center that made the most sense for our community and the kids that we serve.
So what are your both? I guess the question, both of you. What are some of your favorite pieces that you chose and that make us unique, our center?
Yeah, well, beyond the safety and security, I mean, if you've come to the center, you'll see that at every door you are vetted, and it's tightly secure, which every parent really appreciates. And
Okay. You hear that feedback.
Yes, very much so. And our teachers appreciate, everybody needs to be safe. But aside from that, there are a lot of communal spaces. So one of the biggest, I think, promoted things that I love and that I've heard from other districts that are now building centers and they've come to visit us as the flagship. They love this area too, where I have the somewhat natural playground connected to our gym, which we call a gross motor room, which is also flanked and connected to early or extended early learning areas. And so two big extended learning areas connected to the great big gross motor room, connected to the expansive playground. So if we have groups of children, more than just one or two classrooms, we can all be together in these spaces, and we can open doors. We can, move kids in and out in different areas. They're able to bring things in from outside, things from inside outside. So that is I think, one of the biggest highlights. The other thing is, we were in the Cirque building. Our program was in the Cirque building, and it was the high school at one point.
Sure.
So our lockers and where the children kept their belongings and things were always in the hallway, and which was fine. And they had these nice big lockers, but we never let children or our pre-K kids out of our site into a hallway without us. So in the new center, we have cubby bathroom spaces, which allow the children to come into the classroom, take care of their personal needs, put away their belongings all on their own, but they're still in that safe environment of the classroom, and the teacher is right there if they need assistance. So that's another really thoughtful piece that we put together, because one of the things, of course, that we were talking about transition to kindergarten is kids really need to be able to have some self-care skills. Kindergarten teachers have told me years and years, one of the biggest things you can help them do is pack their own backpack, hang up their own items, put on their own coat and try to zip it, on their own, tie their shoes, So even though we talk a lot about academics, those self-help skills are really important as, to function on a daily basis in school. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of other things I love about the center. But the size of the spaces, so the rooms themselves, they're all very large. They have, I think we're just under 1,100 square feet per classroom, which is a lot of space for children to move around. We also keep our classroom ratios smaller than what's regulated by the state.
Okay.
So, at any one time, we typically we're under 20 students, most times 16 to 18 students per classroom with
Okay.
2 teachers. So that large room really helps. Kids can move around. Some of our students are still learning to walk and
Right,
run
right,
and
right.
things, so they need that space to do that. That's part of their learning and growth. That even our hallways, and our classrooms, the way they're set up, we set them up as, I like to call them little neighborhoods or porches, because as we were learning through the design process, that children at that age, they really feel safe in a home kind of small environment. And so in our entries to every classroom, we have little porches where they share with the connecting classroom. And so they kind of feel like they're being invited to a front door basically every morning when they walk to school.
Heidi, the intentionality at every level, you talk about like making spaces that are appropriate for that age and size of people. There's a number of smaller things in this building, from the door in the front and inside, the height of things. I mean, that's something that you guys talked about during the process, right?
Yes, throughout the design, I would say the lens that we looked through was a lens of a small child. So making sure that, the windows, for instance, in the classrooms, they're purposefully low. We have a front door that is purposefully, kid size. An adult is not going to be walking through that door. It is meant to be small for children. And so I would say that is one of the things definitely throughout the whole design is we really looked at it from a kid's perspective, making sure that kids could see out of windows and, from, steps in a classroom, all of those sorts of things. The other thing I think that we looked at as well, and Kim kind of alluded to this, is making, this space feel similar to a home environment. So again, in selecting the furniture, some of the, kitchen utensils, plates, all of those sorts of things was, again, meaningful and purposeful in what we were selecting to try to, create that feeling of a home space, which we know that is important for kids. The other thing that we looked at is ensuring that, the outdoor space, there was a lot of natural things that were brought into things on the playground, natural pieces of wood that kids could play with and things like that. So a lot of intentionality and purpose and research went into the design of this building.
Kim, as when you are managing an early childhood program, there's a lot of state regulations, maybe even more than there are for K-12, because to protect the young children, that includes a program that is state mandated, the GSRP. Do you want to share a little bit about kind of what that program is as well?
Yeah, sure. So GSRP stands for Great Start Readiness Preschool, and it is a program grant from the state of Michigan. So it was strictly meant for high-risk, low-income families within the community to take part in a free program for 4-year-old students. Now, Governor Whitmer has pushed that money forward to provide a free 4-year-old preschool for all children in the state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
So we have been fortunate enough to gain what we call slots
Okay.
or child placement. And what's nice about it is it's still we still track and make sure that we are serving our high risk community, but it's also open to, there is no income level anymore. It is
Oh, okay.
a opportunity for all 4-year-olds to come to preschool for free, regardless. Really, the only thing that we need to make sure is that that child is age 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I guess it's opportunity, right? That's kind of what everyone's trying to get into. I mean, when we even have conversations about trying to make sure we get all the kindergartners who live in the neighborhood to come and register for school, like to get them in earlier even is an opportunity for, the district and everything like that. As you kind of evaluate the interactions, and now you've lived in the building for a number four. Have you made adjustments within like processes and kind of rooms and how you do things over the last couple of years, knowing the space?
Yeah, we've had to change up some things every year. Really, we do a little bit of change up, and we will continue to do so, especially with the onboarding of this GSRP monies coming in. So we'll be adding, a couple more opportunity classrooms for that program. But we no sooner really moved in to the building, and we decided we need to be bigger.
Nothing wrong with
Actually
that. That's
need
a good problem, right?
more rooms, more space to serve our community. So it's definitely, an interesting, working out the puzzles and all the things that have to happen. As far as, having the space and making sure we're using all the allowable spaces, we have been very strategic and creative in being able to do that.
Heidi, as the Early Childhood Center exists within the framework of the district, I mean, what do you see? How do you see the value of that versus like the K-12 buildings and, the different areas that we have?
I think having an early childhood center as part of our district, honestly, is essential because we are, it provides the opportunity for us to collaborate, and we can, have the experience from the teachers, sharing with one another, collaborating with one another. It's really, our district really starts at a very young age, and they're right on campus with, our schools, and they're part of our schools. So to me, that's a huge benefit that these students are receiving because there is a direct connection between the center and kindergarten. There's a smooth transition. We get to know our students at and our families at a younger age, and so it's, to me, really, districts should have early childhood centers. It makes total sense.
I guess to both of you, looking ahead, the future of early childhood education, it continues to grow, right? I mean, this is something that barely existed, a generation ago, and now it's growing. What do you guys see as the future of early childhood education? I guess Kim, maybe on the broader scale, and Heidi kind of within our district.
I mean, one of the biggest things I'm seeing is it is being seen as a piece of the school district. School districts now say pre-K to 12th grade. I think that is more the norm than the anomaly. And I think that piece of it has, like you said, years ago was not the case. As a matter of fact, years ago there were kids that never even went to pre-K before they came to kindergarten. So having it in the district, I think, is sort of is one of the biggest changes, and that inclusion of the teachers, teacher to teacher. Pre-K teachers are teachers, just like your kindergarten to 12th grade teachers, and being seen as a valuable piece of that. I think that is one of the biggest things that I've seen in the change in my many, many years in this field.
Well, a reflection of that, I guess, is from the county. And this year they've started to recognize early childhood teachers, early childhood teacher of the year. That was something that didn't exist before. And Erica Rock from our district was obviously honored. Heidi, what do you see?
From a district perspective, since we opened the center, we've had a wait list. And so, it's our hope that we will be able to expand the center to better be able to serve our community. We do have our community members that want these services and opportunities for their children. And we're full every year with a wait list. So it is my hope that we will be able to add on to the center so that we can provide the opportunity, and all of our students and families that want the opportunity have it.
Kim, what's the best way for families to reach out if they want to, find out about the center, even if it's full, to try to get on wait lists or whatever?
Oh, yeah. So they can go to our website. We have a web page right off the district website. So the early childhood page is accessible under the building section of the website. We also have our main line number, which you can communicate with anyone in the office, is 248-693-5439. But we still, even if we have a wait list, we have people calling for next year already. We're giving them information on when our open house happens, which is every year in March. They can come and take a look at the building. But throughout the year, we've done tours and had visits. And, so we encourage people, even just if you're in the community or you're new to the community, give us a call and we can kind of walk you through the center, but also, how to get involved and enrolled.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, both of you. It's very enlightening because I think this is an area that people don't know as much about, and this is an opportunity for them to get familiar a little bit with early childhood and kind of one of the growing areas of our district and, I guess, education in general. So thank you very much.
Thank you.